The dust from my truck hadn't even settled when I saw her marching across what was supposed to be my property. She moved with a kind of righteous fury that only comes from years of unchecked authority. Her clipboard was clutched like a weapon. Her designer sunglasses reflected the afternoon sun like twin shields of pure entitlement. I had driven 18 hours straight from Seattle to claim my inheritance. It was my grandfather's 40-acre ranch in rural Wyoming. Grandpa Arthur had passed away 3 months ago, and the grief still sat heavy in my chest. This land was absolutely all I had left of him. It was the place where I had spent every childhood summer. I spent years learning to ride horses, mend fences, and appreciate the kind of deep silence you simply cannot find in the city. "Excuse me." The woman's voice cut through the air like a rusty saw blade. "You are trespassing on HOA property." I stepped out of my truck slowly. My legs were stiff from the incredibly long drive. "I'm sorry. What?" She was in her mid-50s, wearing a white polo shirt with an embroidered logo I couldn't quite make out. She wore khaki capris and pristine white sneakers that had clearly never touched actual ranch dirt before today. Her honey blonde hair was pulled back so tight it looked incredibly painful. "I'm Margaret Carmichael, president of the Falcon Crest Meadows Homeowners Association." She thrust a piece of paper toward me. "This property was seized for unpaid HOA dues and sold at a legal auction exactly 2 weeks ago. The new owners take full possession tomorrow," she added coldly. My blood went completely cold. "That's impossible. My grandfather owned this land outright for 47 years. There is absolutely no HOA. Margaret's smile was sharp enough to easily cut glass. The Falcon Crest Meadows HOA was established in 2019. All properties within our boundaries are automatically enrolled. Your grandfather was sent multiple formal notifications. He died in April," I said, my voice visibly shaking. "And this property was never part of any HOA. My grandfather specifically chose this land because it was far outside any modern development. That may have been true once, but the county redrew some boundary lines. When we officially incorporated," she pulled out her phone with perfectly manicured fingers. "Now, if you don't leave immediately, I will have to call the proper authorities." I quickly pulled out my own paperwork. I had the deed, the will, and everything my grandfather's lawyer had legally sent me. Arthur Sterling was my grandfather. According to these documents, I inherited this property free and clear. There is absolutely no mortgage. There are no liens, and there is definitely no HOA. Margaret barely glanced at my official documents. "Those are completely outdated. The property was legally sold 2 weeks ago to a developer from Cheyenne. They are planning to build a lovely equestrian community here. It will be very upscale, and the sale is already finalized." My hands were visibly shaking now. "You can't just sell someone's private property without their knowledge." "We followed all legal procedures," she interrupted, her voice dripping with thick condescension. "Multiple certified letters were sent to the owner. When absolutely no response was received and dues remained unpaid for 18 months, we exercised our legal right to foreclose. It's all securely in the HOA bylaws, which your grandfather agreed to when the HOA was formed. He was in a hospice facility for the last year of his life." I shouted, no longer caring about staying calm. He couldn't respond to anything. "And even if he could have, he never agreed to join your HOA because this property isn't a part of it." Margaret's expression instantly hardened. "Young man, I do not appreciate your aggressive tone. I am trying to be extremely professional here. Professional. You sold my grandfather's ranch right out from under me while I was busy burying him." She dramatically raised her phone. "I am calling 911 right now. You are becoming highly threatening." "I am standing right here on my own property," I shot back. But she was already dialing the numbers. She turned away from me with theatrical flair to speak to the operator. "Yes, hello. I urgently need police assistance at 4412 Timberline County Road. There is an aggressive trespasser refusing to leave HOA property. He is very hostile, and I feel incredibly unsafe. I couldn't believe exactly what I was hearing. She had blatantly stolen my inheritance and was now actually calling the cops on me. While Margaret spoke in urgent, artificially frightened tones to the dispatcher, she completely fabricated how aggressive I was being. I called the only person I could think of. I dialed Victoria Hayes, my grandfather's trusted lawyer. Victoria answered on the second ring. "Are you finally at the ranch, Julian? There's a woman here claiming an HOA legally sold the property. She says." "What? Hold on. Slow down immediately. What HOA?" I carefully explained everything while Margaret watched me from 20 feet away. She was still on her phone, now apparently calling someone else. It was probably her husband or the alleged new developer. Victoria was dead silent for a very long moment. "Julian, your grandfather's property was never part of any HOA. I personally handled all his legal affairs. There were absolutely no dues, no letters, nothing. Can you quickly send me photos of whatever documents she currently has?" "She won't even let me see them up close," I replied. "Get photos anyway, and absolutely do not leave that property. I am 2 hours away, but I am coming right now. The police arrive before I do. Just be polite. Show them your original deed and explain the entire situation calmly. Do not let them intimidate you into leaving." 2 sheriff's deputies arrived 30 minutes later. Margaret immediately rushed toward them, her face a perfect mask of distress. "Officers, thank goodness. This terrible man has been yelling at me and threatening me." I politely told him this property belongs to the HOA now, but he simply will not listen. Deputy Mitchell, a tired-looking man in his 40s, slowly turned to me. "Sir, can you explain exactly what is going on here?" I took a deep breath and pulled out my documents. "My name is Julian Sterling. My grandfather, Arthur Sterling, passed away 3 months ago and legally left me this ranch. I have the official deed, the will, and the death certificate right here. I arrived today to take legal possession of my inheritance. This woman claims the property was sold by an HOA that my grandfather never once belonged to." Deputy Mitchell examined my papers carefully. Meanwhile, his partner, Deputy Jenkins, spoke quietly with Margaret near her vehicle. "This deed looks completely legitimate," Deputy Mitchell said. "It shows clear ownership by Arthur Sterling, legally transferred to you upon his unfortunate death." Margaret swooped right in. "But that deed does not supersede HOA covenants. We sent certified letters to him. We followed all necessary legal procedures." "Ma'am," Deputy Jenkins said very carefully, "do you have any documentation showing that this specific property was actually part of your HOA?" Of course, Margaret fumbled nervously with her clipboard. "The boundaries are clearly, well, it is all in our master plat, which is officially filed with the county. And do you have solid proof that Mr. Sterling, the elder Mr. Sterling, ever received notice of HOA membership and foreclosure proceedings?" Deputy Mitchell asked pointedly. Margaret's extreme confidence wavered slightly for the first time. The certified letters were sent directly to the property address. "My grandfather was in a hospice facility," I said quietly. "He wasn't living here. He never would have agreed to join an HOA. He bought this land specifically because it was private, unincorporated land." Deputy Mitchell looked carefully between us. "This is strictly a civil matter, not a criminal one. Ma'am, you cannot have someone arrested for trespassing on property when ownership is actively disputed." He turned his attention to me. "Sir, I would highly recommend you contact a lawyer immediately and get this sorted out through the proper legal channels." "My lawyer is already on her way," I said firmly. Margaret's face had gone completely red. "This is absolutely outrageous. I have a fiduciary duty to the HOA members. The sale was completely legal." "Then you will need to prove that fact in court," Deputy Mitchell said firmly. "But right now, this young man has a legal deed showing he inherited this exact property. Until a judge explicitly says otherwise, He has as much right to be standing here as anyone else. After the deputies left with stern warnings for both of us to keep things peaceful, Margaret stood fuming at the property line. "You haven't heard the last of this?" she hissed viciously. "The HOA has lawyers too, very good ones. And when we prove that sale was legal, you will owe us dearly. You will pay for the time and immense expense of dealing with your childish obstruction. Looking forward to it," I said, my voice far steadier than I actually felt inside. She stormed off to her pristine white Lexus SUV, angrily kicking up dust as she sped away. When Victoria finally arrived 2 hours later, she brought a heavy stack of documents 6 inches thick. We sat on my grandfather's porch. It was my porch now. She carefully spread everything out. "Julian, I've been digging through records all afternoon. The Falcon Crest Meadows HOA does exist, but their legal boundaries are clearly mapped. Your grandfather's property is a quarter-mile strictly outside those boundaries. They have absolutely no jurisdiction here whatsoever." Pure relief flooded heavily through me. So the sale isn't actually legal. The sale is completely fraudulent. I have already contacted the county recorder's office. No legal foreclosure was filed. No auction was actually held. And no deed was legally transferred. Margaret Carmichael appears to have completely fabricated the entire thing. But why? I asked. Victoria's expression darkened noticeably. "I did some asking around the county. Apparently, there is a developer who has been aggressively trying to buy up land in this area for years. Your grandfather adamantly refused to sell. Guessing Margaret saw an opportunity when he died. She forged some documents, tried to scare off the heir, planned to flip the property to her developer friend for a very nice finder's fee. That's blatant fraud." "That is actually criminal," I said. Stunned. "Yes, it absolutely is. I have already contacted the district attorney's office. They are very interested in speaking with Ms. Carmichael immediately." 3 weeks later, I proudly watched from that very same porch as Margaret Carmichael was escorted from her own home in heavy steel handcuffs. The local news networks aggressively covered the story, calling it a massive HOA foreclosure fraud. She apparently tried the exact same scheme with 2 other properties belonging to elderly or recently deceased owners. The criminal charges included extreme fraud, blatant forgery, and attempted theft. The sleazy developer from Cheyenne actually turned out to be her brother-in-law, and he was promptly arrested too. I spent that first beautiful summer on the ranch, repairing broken fences, repainting the old barn, and slowly learning to breathe freely again. Every vibrant sunset deeply reminded me of Grandpa Arthur. Every cool morning felt like reclaiming something incredibly precious that had almost been stolen from me. The Falcon Crest Meadows HOA quickly elected a new president. They sent me a highly formal apology letter, along with absolute clarification that my property had never been and never would be part of their association. I proudly framed that apology letter. I hung it right next to Grandpa Arthur's old wooden ranch sign. Some horrible people think they can take whatever they see. Want if they simply act authoritative enough? But the law truly does not care about fancy clipboards or fake confidence. It only cares about the truth. And the truth was incredibly simple. This land was legally mine, exactly just like Grandpa Arthur intended. If you enjoyed this real lifestyle story, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.